Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient.
Listeners, I'm back again. Today, I'm so excited to have Bridget Botelho with us. And Bridget, if you would like to give our listeners, it's kind of a short biography of who you are and what you do and where you're at in the world.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. As you mentioned, my name is Bridget Botelho, and I'm an integrative health coach who works with women who have autoimmune and chronic symptoms. I work with them to reclaim their power over autoimmunity and to harness their vibrant energy and really design a healthy lifestyle that is tailored specifically to them. And I came upon this work because I do have multiple sclerosis and was diagnosed at a young age myself. And so I know what they're going through, and it led me on this health journey we'll talk more about. And I'm also based in San Francisco, California.
Oh, gosh, I love it there. That's great. So how old were you when you said you were diagnosed at a young age?
Yes, so I was 18 when I was diagnosed, and that was back in 2007. I was starting my sophomore year of college in Northern California, and it just changed my world, as I'm sure many can relate to. And, my journey has kind of had a lot of ups and downs, as is to be expected. And for the first 10 years of my journey, really tried to ignore it more or less. And yes, there were times where I felt like I wanted to be more proactive, but it wasn't until a few years ago when I had a terrible year of chronic symptoms and flare-ups, and just really decided then to learn more about how I could best support my body.
Did you have a bunch of symptoms before you were 18? Was it a surprise, or was it, well, I guess you said it was a surprise. I mean, with a lot of people, they have stuff that happens that doesn't really connect the dots until they have that diagnosis. Was that like that for you?
It was more or less. I started getting symptoms, I would say maybe a month or two before I was officially diagnosed. But yes, as you mentioned, when I was diagnosed, my doctor had said that, I probably had multiple sclerosis or the underlines of it for a while. And it wasn't until, it's hard to say, but something triggered it. And that's how it kind of manifested into what I experienced, which was a lot of numbness and tingling in the lower half of my body. And it, because I just assumed it would go away, I, let it progress a few weeks later, and then it started becoming harder to walk. And, that's when you realize, okay, something's going on. And I didn't really have any sort of knowledge or experience with even anyone I knew in my general circle, family, friends, etc., who had gone through anything like this. And so I really had to learn for myself. And, back in 2007, the internet wasn't what it is now. And my doctor had actually said, you shouldn't be going online to look up multiple sclerosis because it can be a very scary place. And, there's a lot of stuff that you haven't experienced. And there's, so many different ways in which people experience this. Now, of course, there are a lot more positive communities and networks and empowering things like this podcast, for example. But yeah, back then there just wasn't a lot out there.
That's interesting that you had, it sounds like you had a pretty positive experience with your doctors. Is that correct?
For the most part, yes. I think initially, looking back on it, the diagnosis, it was an intense few days trying to figure out what I actually had. And of course, they throw a lot of diagnoses at you, which, some even seemed a lot scarier than having MS. And so when after a couple of days of testing, the results came in, I think was just relieved because it was this sense of initial closure of, okay, I know what I have now. I can, move on and kind of figure out where to go from there. But then it took me, more than 10 years to realize that where you go on from there can be really hard to figure out. And that's why I also, have now transitioned. Others figure that out too, because I think there's that gap between your doctor and yes, some, not everyone has a good experience with their doctor. And then there's that gap to get where you can create long lasting and hopefully preventative change.
So when you decided, was it just the one bad, not just, but when you had that bad year, was it, it sounds like it was a cumulative effect of just several bad things and bad flares and just a really bad year that changed your mind and made you start to want to take ownership and try and consciously change your future with your disease?
Absolutely. I think over the course of, so I've had, since my diagnosis, it's been about 13 years. And about that, first 10 and a half to 11 years, there were a lot of ups and downs. There were some years where I was lucky to more or less be able to ignore the fact that I had MS, although I now realize that was probably not for the best. And then, yes, there were some more challenging years where I did have flare-ups. And as I mentioned, in 2018, I had two really big relapses, one in the beginning of the year and one at the end. And yes, I think that is what ultimately catapulted me into what now is my new lifestyle, because at the end of that year, I had reflected and thought, oh, wow, like I felt like crap this whole year. And I don't want to feel this way anymore. At December of that year, I still had lingering symptoms that weren't going away. Looking back on it now, I realized it was because I had a lot of stress going on in my life. Sure, there were a lot of diet and exercise related changes that I could have implemented, which I now work with clients on, but there's this whole other piece of stress and routines and getting proper sleep and all this stuff that I just was not doing to care for my body. And I kind of got to the point, and I think it was because, when I was diagnosed, I was 18 and now I'm older. That year I had just turned 30 and I was like, oh, I can actually have someone help and support me. And I don't have to make all the decisions or learn everything from scratch. I think at that point I've been reading up a lot about, autoimmune protocols and various diets and things, but I just ultimately felt like I needed help to figure out what was best for me and someone to kind of like clearly give me some guidance. And so I actually ended up hiring my own holistic nutritionist, who, yes, her name's Becky Davies. She's amazing. And I really feel like that was such a turning point for me. That was the end of 2018. And I started this journey during the holiday season, which, if you can imagine, was
not easy.
No, but I think that just goes to show you just how determined I was. I was like, I don't care. I need some relief. And honestly, even looking back on it to this day, just the short amount of time having a little bit of support, it really just supercharged me into this new life that I didn't even think I envisioned at the time. But just not only feeling better, but feeling like I took some of my power back and that I actually had control and that I was excited about my future as opposed to, you know, sure, being, you know, excited about my future in general, but always having this at the back of my mind of, you know, oh, my MS, my symptoms. Now I feel like I'm a lot more empowered with this knowledge that I am now very excited to be sharing with others.
Oh, I love that. That that gives me a whole bunch of new questions. And
Great.
first, I want to back up just a little bit, to see what flare look like for you, and do you still have them?
Yes. So there's kind of two levels of flares. You know, I think the one that I really classify as a relapse is what I kind of mentioned earlier, is when the lower half of my body you know, starts to become numb and tingling, and it can eventually lead into loss of movement and paralysis. And that luckily hasn't happened since 2018.
Wow.
I think, and I feel like I can honestly say that I don't really experience flare-ups, at least in the way that I used to see them. Now I think, you know, I'm so much more intuitive in terms of what might be coming on as a potential flare. But now I know that that looks and feels like fatigue or, you know, optical tiredness, you know, kind of like my eyes being tired. And yeah, maybe a little bit of kind of lack of coordination, along with just feeling, you know, kind of tired and fatigued. And so that's what I experience more or less these days. But I will say it doesn't happen quite often. I feel like my body has healed from a lot of the initial kind of root causes that were leading to those symptoms, which is kind of amazing to, yeah, just feel it in my body that my body's just different than it used to be.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. I
Yeah.
can't imagine the relief that you feel on a daily basis. I know that as a person who lives with chronic illness, it's just having pain every day is it's so taxing, and you don't, something happens or you take a medication and it ceases, and then you're like, oh wow. Wait. So tell me kind of what kind of lifestyle choices you made to change your life.
Absolutely. So the first thing that I did, and what I typically do when working with clients, is I look at the foundation. I look at the basics, and that is food and movement. Food for me is setting the ground level of everything that you can build on. And as I'm sure a lot of folks in the chronic and autoimmune community have learned, you know, gut health and gut balancing is incredibly important. So I dove into that at the time working with a nutritionist. And what that looked like initially was what is called an elimination diet. So it was eliminating most of the, you know, top allergens, the most inflammatory foods. I cut out gluten and dairy, which was so hard for me, especially around the holidays, as I mentioned.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know it was an experience, I will say. And temporarily at that time, I also cut out eggs and nuts and even other grains to start with. And that lasted about 3 weeks. And then after that, it was kind of testing different foods, adding them back in, but at a very slow pace. And this is where I actually started to see just the fun. I would call it fun. I saw the fun in it because it was teaching me how my specific body reacted to different foods, even vegetables, because, you know, I think we get caught in these traps of like, this is healthy, this is unhealthy. And it's like, sure, there are certain types of foods that we know if you eat less of over a period of time, you feel well. But I think that knowledge can only go so far, because at the end of the day, you have to test them on your own and really be introspective about how you feel when you eat them. And so
Mm-hmm.
the first, 2 to 3 months of my journey were really learning about myself and the foods that worked for me and made me feel great, reduced some of, that chronic pain that you had mentioned. Do I wake up a couple of days later after eating XYZ and do I feel energized, or do I feel joint pain? Do I feel a little sluggish? And I would just keep a journal to help me kind of figure out what could be leading to how I'm feeling. And so that was, really transformative. And then I kind of, once I felt like I got a handle of that, how many vegetables should I be eating? Okay, I need to keep variety in my diet. I need to make sure I'm getting these types of nutrients in my body every day. Really kind of looking at it at that foundational level. And then I really dove into, okay, now I need to make sure that I'm doing light exercise or getting walking in, because I actually, with my clients, teach them that, you don't want to be burning yourself out with exercise and other activities, because that is counterproductive, right?
Right.
And then it was interesting, because then I felt like, oh, wow, I overcame this big hurdle of just building this foundation of what I now know is my healthy lifestyle. Then I was able to dive into, meditation, journaling, types of spiritual practices that, were really helpful for me. And then focusing on the mindset piece and really programming in my brain, and it's an ongoing process. I still struggle with this, but programming in my brain that I am healthy and I am healing, because that can have such an amazing impact. And so, that's kind of a piece that I'm, working on every day now, just the mindset, and also helping my body just de-stress, because that's so important to healing.
In that same vein, what kinds of things do you do as methods of self-care and self-nurturing? Is that part of your regular practice as well?
Absolutely. I am really big on routines now. I have an everyday practice both in the morning and at night. For the morning, it starts with me getting some kind of crucial supplements in. I take my D, my C, and a veggie powder, and I make sure I hydrate, and I fill like a big pitcher of water up every morning that I drink throughout the day. And it also includes, getting a nourishing breakfast in, whatever it looks like that morning. I try to mix it up. And then I also make sure that I incorporate at least a few minutes of meditation and or journaling, depending on how I feel. And I wake up pretty early now. I definitely didn't used to be a morning person, but I now like to ease into my mornings and feel like I have time and space to, luxuriate in those practices. And then sometimes I'll try to get like a morning walk in. If I don't do that, I make sure I fit one in at lunch. And then in the evening, I just make sure that I'm turning off my phone and other devices early, probably meditating again. I definitely try to read a little bit before bed and do some breathing exercises, and just really try to kind of shut it all off every night.
Oh, that's so smart, especially now.
Yes.
It's funny. It's funny you talk about routines. I always ask that question about routines, so it's neat that you brought it up. I'm a very routine-driven person. It just seems to work well with my brain, the way that it works for me. And it's funny. I would say about 50% of the people I speak with are not. So it's kind of nice. I always like it when I have another routine person.
Yes, I love it. I think I'm sure when I was younger, I would have hated a routine. I think there's something that when people hear the word routine, it seems so rigid and kind of,
right.
Yeah, like, oh, they don't want to be, set to a specific type of routine. What I really try to recommend to my clients, but to anyone, is that you can have like a short list of things that you more or less each day want to incorporate. And if some of those things on that list are things you don't want to do that morning, fine. Like, you have other things that you know center you and help you start or end your day. For me, I try to kind of loosely categorize them into, I need to be doing things for my mind, body, and soul. And so mind is meditation, soul can be any sort of journaling or internal work, or even being out in nature for me. And then for body, just really making sure I'm eating the foods and supplements that I need to be taking in every day. So that's kind of how, for me, it's like a nice balance of like, okay, I definitely have a routine and I know, what I like doing every day, but in the event that I don't feel like staying inside the box, I can break free a little bit.
Flexibility is good for sure. So what does a coaching plan, like a typical coaching plan for one of your clients look like? How do you go about helping someone?
Yes. So when I first work with a client, I want to make sure that I have proper time to kind of get them on their path. So I work for, and then after that, we can work on an as needed basis. But the first 3 months start with, a very in-depth intake on how they feel day to day, what their symptoms are like, what their current lifestyle is regarding food, exercise, and as we just talked about, whether or not they have certain routines or what kind of stressors they have in their life. And I really use that as a launching pad to then figure out what we do for the next 3 months. The first month will always incorporate food and movement because that is that foundation. I do work with clients mostly on having that elimination diet and journaling, and because I think it's the quickest way to not only look at the underlying causes of how they're feeling, but it's also the quickest way to feel better. And the body can do some amazing things in just 21 days. Essentially your whole digestive system, and therefore the majority of your immune system, can essentially renew itself within those 3 weeks. So if you minimize the foods that are more likely to, be kind of these barriers to initial healing, we then can chart a course that is, really exciting. And, so that's month 1, getting the basics. And that's a lot, a lot of people, depending on how they do, eat and how they move their bodies daily, these can be pretty big changes. So we take them step by step because we're going for, long-term lifestyle changes. And I really make sure that they're feeling comfortable about kind of diving into what might be a very new way of eating and structuring their day. And then month 2 will build on that. It not only it takes what we've learned from the food and movement component, but then it builds on it to expand into what are some external factors that can also be, flooding their body with stress or other types of toxins. So we'll take a look at, household items they might be using, water filters. We also look at hair and beauty products and cleaning products and all that stuff. And, working with clients, I don't expect them to change, all their products or how they're living their lives right away. But we just look for areas where they might be most excited to make these changes because because all of these are adding to kind of your overall stress and potential symptoms, right? And the functional medicine doctor who trained me as an integrative health practitioner, Dr. Stephen Cabral, he has this amazing book called The Rain Barrel Effect. And the idea is that, if you put a barrel out and the rain keeps accumulating without finding a way to drain that barrel, it's going to overflow. And so that is the analogy that he uses to describe what your body essentially goes through if you don't find a way of releasing those toxins regularly. So we look at environmental factors in addition to just food and ways of moving your body. And then the third month really is kind of fine tuning. Okay, what does your lifestyle look like now? How are you feeling? What do you feel like you need to change up? And we add on that health mindset component. Okay, now that you're feeling better and starting to really live this new life, how can we take that to the next level from a mindset point, but also just recharging your energy around how you feel and relate to your autoimmune and chronic symptoms? And haven't at that point in month 3, which I usually try to get to it earlier, but we're also tweaking sleep routines and making sure that folks are sleeping soundly throughout the night and really incorporating de-stressing practices that can not only are just great in general, but and help you feel better, but can really decrease the extra stress and inflammation on your body. And so we really look at all areas of your lifestyle.
Oh, I love that, that perspective. I think holistic medicine is something that not enough people take advantage of. So, and the thing with my personal autoimmune condition, and I think other people that I've spoken with, is that seems like the key thing if you treat everything as a whole. So many people I've talked to do have these weird, unrelated, like my conditions made no sense until I finally found a doctor who was like, oh yeah, it all goes together. It all, so I think being able to treat people that way, it shouldn't be so revolutionary, but I feel like it is.
Right. And what I love about that too is that there's power in realizing that one decision is not the end all be all. And when you look at it from a very holistic perspective, I feel like people have so much more freedom with that because, for example, say, in the pre-coronavirus world, say you were someone who has a really demanding job, you travel a lot for work, and you have all these demands, whether it's family, work, friends, etc. It's really hard to juggle all of that with having, these chronic symptoms. And, it's kind of a cyclical pattern where it's like, okay, you're doing things that might not be best for your body. And so you feel like crap, but then you have to keep going and it goes on and on. And so what I love about this holistic approach is that, okay, like if you're at a time where you're maybe not going to be eating your best, then you need to lean more on sleep or supplements and the mindset piece. You need to do whatever you can to balance it out. And then vice versa. Like if you're eating great, but maybe you're particularly stressed, it doesn't have to be an end all be all. It's a framework that you can plug and play to truly find balance so that you're supporting your body in some way ongoingly.
I like that analogy of plug and play. You have to, it's realistic too in knowing that one thing isn't going to work all the time, but that it's nice to be able to have a plan to have, fallbacks and fail safes for when you can't, because there are always times like the holidays or you can't always be perfect at it. So I like that approach as well. So I have a whole series of questions that are kind of silly, but I always like to really try and get to know the person and have my listeners kind of learn a little bit more about you as a person. So one of them is, what kinds of things are in your life? What kinds of practices or things that you like to do that make you happy? what kind of stuff makes you happy?
Yes, I love that question. I love being out in nature. As I mentioned, I live in San Francisco and I live a block away from Golden Gate Park. And it is honestly the best blessing ever, especially now. And I'm also close to the ocean. So at least once a day, I really try to go outside, listen to my favorite music. I'm also obsessed with binaural beats, which is music at certain frequencies that actually can change the makeup of your body and help it to de-stress. And so, or I'll listen to kind of like a relaxing podcast as I'm walking around. So I try to do that every day. And then I also love cooking. I really think being in the kitchen, cooking and baking has been especially important for me right now. And it also allows me to be creative and make my own recipes, which is really fun.
Ooh, that's fun. I like that. Well, I mean, like you say, right now, especially, but it's fun to be able to nurture yourself by doing something that is physically nurturing, to be able to, like, you're feeding yourself and your family and the people around you. But I like that. So do you have any special baking recipes that you have done recently?
So recently there is this, and of course over the past couple of years, my whole like way of cooking and baking has changed. But there's this recipe for gluten-free and dairy-free tahini chocolate chip cookies, and they are so good. I can send you the link. It's there's a blogger, her name is Kale Junkie, so just kalejunkie.com. They're called life-changing chocolate chip tahini cookies. They're so good. I probably make a batch, every month or so, and I throw them in the freezer because they're so good.
Oh, yum. Oh, that sounds great. Actually, last night, it's funny that you say that. I'm gluten-free, and I've been gluten-free for about 11 years or so, but I'm not celiac, so I don't have a gluten-free kitchen completely, but so I cook kind of half and half for my family. And we do a CSA.
Yeah.
We just harvested our first CSA veggies yesterday, and I was so excited because I was able to use my carrot tops and make a vegan and dairy-free carrot top pesto. I was so excited.
Ooh,
it was amazing.
That does sound great. I've been looking for new pesto recipes.
Oh, it was. I'll send it to you. It was great. And I'll link it. I'll link both of these recipes in the show notes. It was so good because I had gotten some fresh green garlic that we had just pulled. So it was so cool. It made me very, like you say, that's the kind of stuff. Being creative in the kitchen is really fun.
Yes. And so here we have a few amazing CSA programs, and I recently subscribed to this one in Marin called Real Good Greens, and they're doing some great work to, make sure that local farms here are, being supported. And so I've been getting their boxes weekly, and I used to not love the element of surprise that comes with some CSA boxes because I love to plan ahead typically, but I've been really leaning into it because it's all great. And now I'm very pro vegetable, where, believe it or not, I did not used to be, but I will eat any type of vegetable. And so it's been really interesting to not know what some of the things are and to kind of get excited to figure out how to cook with them. Like I didn't realize there was a thing such as a lemon cucumber. Oh,
right.
And the ones that I got are like, they're round, like they're orb shaped. And that was such a fun fact for me. So I'm learning lots of things, and it's the simple things right now, especially that are keeping me going.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. That's funny you say that too, because I grow lemon cucumbers. Like, we have a really funny microclimate here. I'm right outside of Eugene, Oregon. So in the Willamette Valley here, it's pretty temperate. But so cucumbers we can grow like crazy. And it's funny because there's so many, like the same as you. I felt like I was pretty well educated as far as vegetables, but until last year, I'd never eaten kohlrabi,
Nice.
and I didn't know what it looked like, and then we got it in our box, and I was like, whoa! And now it's my favorite vegetable.
I know,
love
it's
it.
so fabulous. I feel the same way about, I mean, I knew what chard was, but I've been especially obsessed with rainbow chard right now. It's just so
Yum.
colorful and so fun. I think for me,
Mhm.
I'm a very visual learner and I love being creative. And so for me, the colors of vegetables and the colors I can bring to the plate have been, I think, what's really gotten me to stick to, eating the way that I do. It just makes it so fun. And there's so many different
Mhm.
flavors and textures and colors. And it's a never ending learning journey too.
I think that's a great attitude, though. I think that, I mean, that's how I think of life. Really, is the more I can learn, the better. And like you say, that's what makes it fun. I like that. You have to eat. You might as
Yeah,
well make it
absolutely.
fun. So, in your daily life, do you have a pretty solid support system, or have you had to build one of those where you're at?
I do. I have been lucky from day one. I think that, I was diagnosed early on, as I mentioned, when I was 18, and my parents were so incredibly supportive, and they were also learning along with me, every step of the way. And it's really cool to see how even our relationship has changed now that I've really been more proactive around my health. I think they've been
Mm-hmm.
very eager to also support me in that journey, even though, we know I'm no longer living at home with them. But it's just been really amazing to see how supportive they've been. And I also have an amazing partner, Arthur, who I actually first met when I started this whole journey. So it was like right after that holiday season, and was living in San Francisco on my own and just really changed my lifestyle so much and wasn't sure if there was space for, a romantic partnership in my life, because I just felt so full in terms of, just getting this new healthy lifestyle off the ground. And but, I'd like to think that, fate happened and there was this magical moment where he and I met. And since then, I mean, from day one, he has supported me so much. And now he helps me by we do quarterly functional medicine detoxes. And so he'll do them with me and fast with me. And he's very supportive. And I also have some amazing friends. And so I am very lucky. I will say that that has been one constant throughout my life that has really made kind of getting to this point so much more feasible.
Oh, that's incredible. And like you say, very lucky. Would you say that it's easy or hard for you to ask for help from your support system?
Oh, it's still very hard. That's so interesting that you mentioned that, because a story that I often tell is I think that one big phase of my journey with MS really started when I started seeing a therapist, which was about 5 years ago. But I didn't even think to tell my therapist that I had MS until 6 months after I had been going to therapy. And that was a really critical moment for me where it dawned on me this is not actually something that I even acknowledge internally all the time. And I surely don't vocalize it or express what I'm going through that often. And then even less so ask for help. And so that has been a really interesting internal process that it's now much easier for me to ask for help. But I think, of course, we all have ways in which we don't even realize we're kind of bypassing that process. So it was definitely hard over the years. Easier now, but I still have to take a step back and always ask myself, do I need to ask for help?
It's so hard, but it's so valuable. I was speaking with someone yesterday, and we were talking about how much of a gift you give other people when you ask them for help. And that always helps me when I remember that, people really want to help you. Like your support system is there because they like you.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. I wanted to touch back a little bit. Now, I've heard of binaural beats and how they work. Can you explain that just a little bit?
That is a great question. So binaural beats, there are a few different frequencies. I don't know specifics, but what the frequencies are.
Right.
But there's a few key frequencies that when you do listen to them, it signals a change in your body. And so there's certain frequencies for just de-stressing. There are certain frequencies for sleep. And it is really, for me, it's really hard for me to still activate that parasympathetic rest and digest feeling in my body. And it's one of the easiest ways that I can now do that. And so listening to some binaural beats, either walking or just sitting and meditating, can be really game changing.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear your experience, because it was something that just had sort of been on my periphery for a while, but I didn't know anybody else who had experienced that. So I'm excited to try that as something in my meditation practice. I like that.
Yeah. And I can, I listen to on Spotify, Dr. Jeffery Thompson is a really good one. And, also Whole Tones is another group that produces them. And yeah, if you just, Google Whole Tones or binaural beats, there's so many. And it's interesting because when I first heard about it, I didn't really know what they would sound like, but it's also a lot of like music that they will play at a spa usually. And so it's very nice, relaxing, soothing spa music is how I like to think of it.
Oh, I like that. Nice and chill. I like that. Speaking of music, one of my other getting to know you questions, what kind of music do you like? What do you listen to?
I love music so much. I was really born and raised on a lot of like old school funk and R&B and soul music. And so I still listen to, and like disco. So I still listen to a lot of that, and even current music that has those similar sounds. I listen to a lot of independent kind of R&B and indie rock sometimes. But yeah, I definitely gravitate towards sounds that have a little bit more kind of old funky vibes.
Oh, I like that. Well, and of course, I mean, we've been to so many Michael Franti concerts.
I love it.
Yes. We were so sad that we couldn't see him this year. One of these days we'll make it to Bali and
that's amazing. Yeah. That sounds fabulous.
Life goal. Life goal. What are your favorite books? I noticed you mentioned the one, The Rain Barrel Effect. Are there any other books that you like, fiction books you like or nonfiction books you enjoy? Something that
that you my gosh, so many things. I often like having both a fiction and nonfiction book that I read at the same time, just because you never know what you're going to be feeling each day. Right now, so I just finished Untamed by Glennon Doyle. Yes. Have you read it? It's amazing.
Yes. I'm next on the list at the library to get it. So it's funny because that's been on my mind for so long, but I've talked to so many people who have read it.
To love it. Yeah.
That's
it's so exciting. Therapeutic. It's such a fast read too, because you just can't get enough. It's amazing. And I'm also reading, it's called, oh my gosh, I think it's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I love all his work. he is a firm believer and researcher around how your thoughts and the signals that you give in your mind really get rooted in your body, and then vice versa, how your body always kind of keeps the score, which I think is another book, but I forget who the author is, but of your thoughts. And so this mind-body connection, and he really gets into, essentially quantum physics around it. And there's also a documentary that he's in on Netflix called Heal that talks all about it, how powerful the mind is in healing. And so I'm reading his book, which is quite interesting.
Ooh, that's fun. I like to balance those two with something more intense or something less. I'm reading Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell right now. And I do too. And it's his new book. It's fascinating, especially right now. It's talking about how to discern the truth when you're speaking with people, or when you're listening to people on TV. It's very, very
absolutely.
Now, what would you say, this is a funny question too, but especially as a person who's concerned with health, do you have are you a coffee person? Are you a tea person? Do you like soda? What do you like to drink?
So I mostly am a tea person. I definitely used to be an everyday coffee drinker. And then I stopped for a bit because I also do have anxiety. And as I was becoming more aware of how certain things made me feel, I realized that drinking coffee every day didn't really help with my anxiety. But I do love coffee. So I still drink it on the weekends, and it feels so much more enjoyable on the weekends too. I feel like I appreciate it that much more. So I'm a tea drinker during the week and coffee on the weekends. And I also love kombucha, and I love water with lemon in it too.
Oh, yum. Now, in your personal life, do you have pets? Are you a pet person?
I am a pet person, but I currently don't have a pet. I really want one, especially right now. We're still sheltered in place here. So I want a dog so badly.
Yeah.
I think eventually we'll definitely get one, but sadly not currently.
Well, it's harder in the city I mean, I'm a cat person. I like dogs, but dog is a different level of commitment for me. I like them, but
it is.
Do you have any other little? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. There's a lag.
Oh no, that was it. I think I just heard the delay.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. So what's next for you? Do you have any projects that we can plug here on the show?
So right now I'm just really focusing all in on my one-on-one coaching program. So, folks should definitely, feel free to follow me and contact me if they're interested in that. It's, like I said, a 3-month program designing, a lifestyle and support specifically tailored for you. And then in the near future, I will be offering some freebies for folks, including a webinar on how you can, incorporate some quick and easy tips to get you on your wellness journey. So if folks are interested in that, they can also sign up for my newsletter list.
Okay. Are there any other resources that you can recommend people look at on their own, books or
Yes,
websites?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned, the Rain Barrel Effect by Dr. Stephen Cabral is amazing. I think it's a really quick and easy read that dives into a lot of science behind this, like a functional approach to really looking at the underlying factors of symptoms you might be having. And I also, I'd also like to plug one of my favorite meditation instructors right now. His name is Sah D'Simone, and he's been doing a lot of great meditations on health and self-love that I am really into right now.
Oh, cool. Now, I will have them on the show notes, but can you tell us your Instagram handle and your
Yes.
website
So my
that people can
Instagram
reach
is
you?
at immune.intuition. Definitely follow me there. And my website is immuneintuition.
For my book recommendation this week, I read the book Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell, What We Should Know About the People We Don't Know. It's an incredible, kind of an intense read. It was very perfect for me this week. From the inside book cover, it says, "Why do our interactions with strangers often go so wrong? We often are using our arguments and our perceptions of strangers with the tools and strategies have been given to make sense of people that we don't know. And because these erroneous strategies don't leave us able to talk to strangers, we invite conflict and misunderstanding in ways that have a profound effect on our lives and our world." I really think that this week in particular, it was a very valuable book for me to read. As I say, it was kind of intense, but I think it was well worth it. And if you seek that out, I don't think you'll be sorry. Any of Malcolm Gladwell's books, of course. And for a little bit of a change of pace, I also wanted to recommend some podcasts this week. I listened to the Stay Human podcast with Michael Franti, whom I spoke about a little bit on this week's show. The Midlife Moneymaker podcast with Gail Keys-Allen. And the Mind Your Business podcast with James Wedmore. As always, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, or if you'd like to be featured on the show, please email me at resilientmail@gmail.com. Have a great week.
Sometimes we have to start over. Sometimes we have to fight back. Sometimes it's all too much. Lost inside the black. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Sometimes we need to lift the voices of those who've overcome and expose the ones that made the choices to stay and fight, not run.